Hello guys, it's Mini Doggy here, back with another video, something I don't think I've ever posted, even when I used to be more active. But today I'm going to have an actual serious discussion about AI pornography, which I know seems kind of crazy, and yes, I'm talking about saying something serious, so ignore the very unserious Skibbity Toilet t-shirt. My appearance is not what I'm asking you to pay attention to, but rather the message. Of course, I know people are going to look at the Skibbity Toilet shirt, and that's okay. It's a interesting shirt. And also, I'm turning the wrong way. Also joining me today is my dog Oliver. So say hi to my dog. He's relaxing on my bed at the moment. But without further ado, let me actually get into the discussion. So I'm going to specifically focus on AI porn in the form of YouTube ads. Reason being is YouTube is very widespread. Many, if not most, people do at least occasionally view YouTube for one reason or another, whether they regularly view it, make content on it, occasionally get sent a link to a video on YouTube and watch it, are YouTube Shorts users, whatever the case might be. Recently, although I'm sure it's happened for longer than just recently, at least in my case, I have been seeing ads of AI that is able to create pornography. And it makes it very clear it's able to do that by showing, or at least using text to make it clear that their platform, their software, whatever you want to call it, is able to create pornography for you. And they do this by showing oftentimes sexualized characters, half naked AI women, and saying things like no filter or no restrictions, which is problematic in its own right, but I'll get into that in a second. Now, some specific instances that I did screenshot, which I'm going to show right here, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about if you have not seen it. And of course, these instances exist beyond YouTube. I'm just focusing on the YouTube side of things. I'm sure you can find it on other social media platforms, random websites, almost definitely porn sites. But regardless, here's some YouTube examples. This one's one of my favorites, and I intentionally used this prompt. You see a half-dressed AI woman, and supposedly the POV of someone, point of view, of someone asking this AI woman to show her feet, which on its own, okay, whatever. It's not that bad, but in the actual video, she does actually put her feet up to the camera, kind of like I'm doing with my hand right here. I'm not going to do it with my foot. Not for YouTube anyway. For my friends, I might. Now, this isn't that bad, but it's a little weird, and especially showing this as an advertisement on a open-end platform like YouTube that anyone can access. Kind of strange. And later in the video, it prompts her to start dancing, and she starts kind of gyrating a little bit. It's clearly demonstrating a sexual activity, even if it's not porn directly. It's what some many would refer to as soft porn. Another specific instance is the various, I guess, instances in this case then, the various ads I've seen from an app called Chai or CHAI, however you're supposed to say it. I don't really care. They've shown one that's just a bar ad or a still image. I don't have it in front of me, but I remember it saying something along the lines of when you already nut and CHAI keeps going. Okay, so for those who understand what that nut emoji or peanut emoji is demonstrating, or what it's saying, which is ejaculation. So when you already ejaculated and CHAI keeps going, we'll understand like, oh, I see what this app's all about. So even if this one doesn't show sexualized content, it still demonstrates it through text. They also use a couple instances of characters from K-pop Demon Hunters with, I haven't seen the show, so I can't say for sure, but I'm assuming slightly enlarged breasts with a, I'm not showing the videos, I'm showing screenshots, but in the actual ad, that have very open-ended physics, as in they bounce around a lot, dancing around and very clearly saying, "Hey, you like these characters? Make them do things for you that will turn you on." Um, a, some multiple instances that I've seen, and this is where the problems occur for me, are the ones that say things like no filters or no restrictions. Now, the main reason these pose an issue for me is, I guess, let me list three examples as to why they're an issue, and I think you'll understand very quickly. Number one, and this one's first and foremost, this implies to me that it literally won't stop you from doing anything, meaning you could arguably have it create child porn for you. Of course, it won't be using real children, but also in theory, you could have it make pornography of a real child, or even just not a real one, but still, it's demonstrated to be a child. I don't think I need to explain, at least I really hope I don't, as to why child pornography in itself is a problem, or any sort of child sexual material, sexual abuse of children, whatever. None of it's good. But the fact that this, in theory, assuming it's not lying when it says no restrictions, and if it is, false advertising, although I kind of hope they're false advertising in this case. Now, the second instance, and I also hope I don't have to argue this one too much, is with bestiality. Now, why am I mentioning this one? Well, I think it's on a similar level to child porn. Just like how you shouldn't do anything, have any sort of real sexual contact or especially sexual intercourse with a child, at least I hope I don't have to argue that with anyone, you also shouldn't with animals. It should remain between humans, consenting adult humans. But in theory, once again, no restrictions, no filter. What's stopping you from having it create bestiality porn? In theory, nothing. If what they say is true, no restrictions, no filters, then you can. Once again, I hope I don't have to argue why that's problematic. It should be very obvious. Bestiality is both unlawful and immoral. You shouldn't do it, just like child porn. Unlawful and definitely immoral. Don't do it. And the third case is it could create a animated case of things like rape. You could have it create two characters of your choice, potentially even bring in what I listed previously of bestiality or children, and create a case of rape. Of course, there's also plenty of ads I've seen on YouTube that are sexualized that are not AI, and often maybe even show similar things. Maybe it's just an actual drawing, but even then, it's the same deal. It's an animated porn of potentially problematic things, just not using AI. Now, the typical instances I've seen of this, and I don't have an example to show you, are with games. So basically showing pixelated softcore porn. At least it's limited, but if you actually were to play the game, would it show more? I don't know. Either way, why is it showing things like that to me? I don't want to see this. Speaking of which, a big issue that I have with these YouTube ads is that it doesn't make it easy for you to get rid of them. Now, I do believe there's a way to go to, I think it's called like marketing preferences on YouTube, whatever exactly it is. You can go somewhere through YouTube to edit your preferences. But in a case of sexualized content, which many people, including myself, obviously don't really want to see, I feel like it should make it easy. Like put a warning up somewhere like, hey, this ad is showing sexual content. Would you like to continue seeing these ads or would you like to remove them? For regular ads about, I don't know, a business that it wants you to invest in or some service or colleges I've seen ads for, fine. Make it hard to get rid of those. Who cares? It's not problematic. But porn and any sexualized content as an advertisement, I feel like it should make it easy for you to get rid of it. But it doesn't. So hopefully in the future YouTube does something about it. But the other thing is, I also don't know if YouTube really knows about these ads. There doesn't seem to be as much of a control over them as they used to have. I think they're kind of letting things slide more. and that's not good, especially for sexual content. If it's just like a violent game and you don't really want to see that, whatever. I mean, I can think of worse things. Now, on the other hand, speaking of YouTube showing these, YouTube's a very open-ended platform, meaning anyone, for the most part, can access it. Of course, if you live in a country like North Korea, you are not going to see it. If you don't have internet or the right devices, you can't use it either. Those are specific instances. Otherwise, anyone can access it. That being said, I don't know if these ads are only going to show to people who YouTube believes is 18 and up. I would like to think that is the case, and I am 22 years old, so in my case, okay, whatever, I'm an adult. At least you're not showing it to a child. But how do I know they're not going to? How do I know that restriction exists? I don't. Now, let's assume best case scenario it does. It will only show those ads to people who are 18 and up. Great. What about the multitude of minors on platforms like YouTube who set their birth date to be earlier than it actually is, so that they don't have restrictions, they can view whatever videos they want? It happens all the time. When I was 14 years old, for example, guess what my age was set to on YouTube? Or I guess my date of birth. It was set to, I think I had it as 1998 or 1999, one of the two. Either way, it said, oh, he's 18 or 19 years old. He's not 14 like I actually was. So it would then show me that ad. Well, just not as bad as child pornography, but approaching that, showing sexualized content or pornography or giving access to pornography to a child is also very problematic for a number of reasons. One, children aren't supposed to, both by law and I think for obvious moral reasons, shouldn't be given access to porn. If it can be avoided, but in this case it can happen. And especially what's problematic is, like I mentioned earlier, since a lot of these apps show that they have no restrictions or no filters, these children could potentially be exposing themselves. Since children aren't as developed in the mind, they might not understand or process the moral concerns as clearly as an adult would. Things like bestiality, rape, whatever. So then they might be creating these with these AI software. So then, therefore, at a young age, they're being exposed to problematic pornography. Now, the obvious downsides of this are, since they are exposed to it, it's now in their mind. So what's stopping them from, now that it's ingrained in them, from doing it in real life? So they create, just because they were experimenting, they just want to see if it could happen. Them, maybe they try to create, I don't know if you can for sure, try to create them in the AI having intercourse with an animal, let's say. Now, for someone, let's say it's a 12-year-old, someone very young, someone who's very impressionable, who's to say they aren't going to say, that's interesting. Now, what if I tried it in real life? At a young age, children are very impressionable. And even if, let's say, they don't get exposed to any of those more harmful acts and just generic pornography, assuming where all characters are consensual adults, let's just go off of that assumption. Even then, the child is being exposed to pornography at a young age, meaning the likelihood for addiction to occur is very prevalent. And I don't think I need to get into the potential downsides of porn addiction or just pornography exposure in general. It's been talked about all over the place. What I will mention, and what I actually wrote about in a neutral stance on pornography that I took in 11th grade, yes, my 11th grade high school teacher allowed me to write a paper on porn, was that, listen, porn can have benefits. I'll admit that. Things such as, for some, it can be consumed, I'm going to use that term, consumed pornography, in a way that is safe and not harmful to others. What I mean by this is you're not so addicted that you become dependent on the hormone release that occurs when you ejaculate or just get exposed to sexual arousal, but rather you can use it only in certain instances or on occasion. Furthermore, by safe, I'm also implying that it doesn't affect your actions in real life. It doesn't make it so that you can't have, as many porn addicts end up suffering from, difficulties in relationships, in emotional control, things like that, and also stay away from things like they become so addicted to that arousal that they start to victimize either through rape, sexual abuse, whether it be domestic or on a complete stranger, any sort of obviously problematic sexual interactions. I don't think I need to explain why rape, sexual abuse are problematic, but it's something that could happen. However, if they can do it safely, although I don't think it's ideal, who am I to judge? When it's a child, more problematic. On the other hand, though, even in extreme instances, I will say porn has the benefit of getting out sexual desires in a personal way, as in you by yourself experiencing sexual arousal in privacy, preferably, than to, let's say, forcibly put that sexual arousal onto others. Once again, victimization. If porn, which it can potentially get rid of that, then I'll admit that's a benefit. But overall, there are problems with porn in general, but also AI porn that claims no restrictions. After all, as I mentioned, things like child porn, rape, actually, one thing I didn't mention, incest, not good, obviously. Well, it was accepted centuries ago, but I would like to think most people are not wanting to do that now. Although I can't speak for everyone. Bestiality, things like that, are likely prevalent in AI. And the public showing of these AI softwares could make this a widespread thing. Widespread usage of, or widespread, I guess, producing of animated child pornography, yada yada, now exists in the public eye. Now, what can we do about that? Not much, except for large companies like social media platforms, including, in this case, YouTube, to put restrictions on what they show, to potentially remove these ads that are saying, hey, you can have no filters or restrictions on our AI to create porn, given that it could obviously, as I've discussed, be problematic. But will they do that? Who knows? And on the other hand, for companies that create these AI softwares, add restrictions, please. If someone says create a small child who's naked, for example, let me just use a very clear example, they should block the message and not promote or produce any content for it. But they might. And I'm sure there's AI on the dark web and whatnot that will do that, because why not? It's the dark web. They do anything they want there. But regardless, I think I've gotten my point across. If you have any comments or questions, or maybe you don't disagree with something I said, feel free to let me know in the comments or through any other form. Most people who watch this will probably know me in real life, so shoot me a text, email me. Although that'd be weird, I don't check my emails that often. But let me know. Anyway, that is all I have for this video. Like I said, feel free to give me your feedback, and I'll see you guys next time. Mini Doggy out.